Hello. You'll have to apologize. Well, I'm apologizing right now. If you can hear my fan in the background, it is fire season nearish where I live, so I have to keep the window closed, and I don't really want to boil to death at all. So, if you can hear that, sorry. But yesterday I finished mouthwashing, and it was pretty good. If you want just no spoiler thoughts at all, it was very good. I do recommend it. Slightly more spoilery. If length of time a game takes to complete is important to you, then the price tag might be high. You might want to wait for a sale because it is more expensive than the time would let on. So if that matters to you, then watch out. But otherwise, I'm gonna get into it. So first playthrough, I'm just gonna come out and say it. A lot went over my head. I think my main takeaways were the bigger picture stuff. And what's gonna come of this is that I feel like I've discovered I have a lot of curlyisms is what I've come away with this. I'm very focused on the larger picture. It was also just a lot to process and a lot happening, just like bam, 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 bam. So I'm gonna allow myself, a little bit of cringe points. It's fine that I didn't understand fully. I think I also have like video game weakness where, especially for the protagonist, whoever I'm playing, which in this case Jimmy's not a protag. I'm just gonna throw that out there. It's hard to process their place in things for me. Like, Jimmy's an asshole. Jimmy is just not a good person. Pretty much perpetually. I don't think he does much of redeeming value at all, ever. But I'm playing Jimmy, and, I think I'm okay. So I guess I sort of impose myself on that. And then, like, on top of not fully understanding everything, there's a lot of abstract metaphor stuff going on. So I didn't really process entirely how terrible of a person Jimmy was that whole time, which was cringe. I think my main takeaways were the big picture stuff. Basically, corporation bad. That's the main overarching one, and the corporation could be probably blamed for pretty much everything happening in the first place. The underslept, overworked MFs trapped on this ugly ass ship, eating the same thing every single day, these like cheap ass packets and stuff. Nutrition packets. While being told constantly that, like, yay, woohoo. Absolutely miserable, dingy setting. So that everyone on the ship has some sort of, like, mental upset. No one's surprised. No one's surprised here. And these conditions are, like, breeding grounds for shit like this to happen. And I do subscribe to Jimmy being a spawn of this sort of workplace mentality. He's very focused on, I guess, the corporate ladder, because going up corporate ladder good. That's just how it is in his brain. So even though he's shit ass, unqualified for any sort of leader position, like he complains that he doesn't have it, complains that Curly, just in a subjective sense, doesn't necessarily want to do the same thing with their life, but they take that as, like, I've been at the top of the corporate ladder so long, maybe I should pop back down a little bit sometime. And it's like, Curly's not flexing. Curly's just upset and miserable. Doesn't want to, do the same fucking thing every single day, even if it pays well. Like, that's not what matters to them as much. And I know it's so complicated to talk about, because there is an element of, like, depending on who you're talking to, telling that to someone who has been at the bottom for so long and has been struggling to just even get by is like, well, I'm glad you're doing so good that, you can do whatever you want, basically. I understand that. There's a lot of minutia in that, but I think in the end, it's just, we all have different, I guess, tiers of struggles, but we all have struggles, and why do we gotta fight amongst ourselves? We're all at, the lower middle ranks. None of us are fucking part of these giant conglomerate corporations that make billion dollars. Why are we fighting amongst ourselves? That's crazy to me. But so that's the main takeaway, I think, and blah blah blah. And then the second layer of that, mostly being, I think, Curly's perspective in the first sort of like abstract conversation he has with Jimmy, although it's probably just Jimmy thinking to himself. It's when they're eating the cake, and so after I finished the game, I watched Minox's video on it to help me parse, which was very helpful. Thank you. And the whole angle of comparing. Sometimes I just want to eat, sometimes I'm just eating shitty cake with my friend and putting that on par with, getting a house and, getting a promotion and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. I think the takeaway I got from the video was that being, how do I phrase this? I guess that just in general, the little moments can be just as impactful as like the life societal sustainability stuff, like those getting a promotion, buying a house, stuff like that. That's all in this camp of like societal stuff, whereas eating shitty cake with my friend is like just a life experience, and those are two separate things. I didn't get that feeling on my first, when it was just my brain thinking about it. I was mostly just thinking about the context of it, like how where you are at in your life can change how impactful different experiences are, because I do still feel like that first list of more societal stuff are experiences and are impactful, and I don't think the game is saying they're not. I just think it's trying to say all of this is important. And depending on the person, some of them might be more important than others. For Jimmy, the corporate societal stuff is more important. And I think in that conversation, that abstract one, that's kind of his whole angle. That's kind of where he's coming from the whole time. Whereas Curly's just trying to say, like, it all matters. It doesn't just matter because it's part of what you're told, a good citizen does with their life. That doesn't matter as much as like what matters to you in your life. What experiences do you want? And that's what Swansea's big speech at the end is so heavily about. That's the most direct messaging in the whole game, I think, because it is directly told to you, whereas even the corporate bad stuff, I guess you have to pick up on it, even though it's just like staring you in the face the whole time. That might, I'm just thinking of it like semantics at that point. But Swansea's speech, I think, is very important in that, not everyone has the same goal, even though society teaches everyone this same goal is the way to live. And that is quite beautiful, I think. I don't like alcohol drinkage, but if someone else enjoys it and they, those are the best times of their life and they're not hurting anyone, then that's great. Thumbs up to you, Swansea. And I love how you treated Daisuke, even though you did kill him. But, I don't really blame you in that instance. Jimmy was prolonging the horrific experience and making it worse perpetually. So you putting Daisuke out of his misery. After one of the most horrible things I feel like I've sat through my character doing to someone else, just like this gaslighting, like this heartless fucking gaslighting, to just like get Daisuke to do something you want to have happen because of a problem you caused, that you know the way what you're having Daisuke do is so dangerous. You've been told over and over and over, like everyone knows it's dangerous. And then yeah, guess what? You put him in this fucking miserable position after putting everyone else in a worse position just over and over again as well. Not to mention Jimmy literally started the fucking problem they're in the first place because of his own, you know, fear of how society would view him when they got back. And the pinning of blame he does on Curly is like, it's not entirely untruthful, but it's such a shitty thing to do to someone. Like, I think he does it twice majorly. Once with when Curly relays the news that the business is closing, and Jimmy just tells Curly how he feels in order to have, like, an excuse to be upset at him. Or feel like, you know, Curly's some asshole. And then when Jimmy crashes the ship as well, he tells Curly, like, you want this too because this is your fault. You know, what I did is your fault because you're the captain and you didn't stop it. Which is like, that is not untruthful of a statement entirely, but the just absolutely no taking accountability whatsoever is fucking horrible to listen to. But I think, like, for that, let me just add, one of the things that went over my head is that Anya was assaulted, and that is such a huge, massive thing to not have processed. I feel fucking stupid. I don't even know how I, like, didn't internalize it at some point, because it's the crux of so much of the symbolism, and just, like, why things happen the way they do is so tied to that. And that's why I think I'll probably have posted these clips before this goes up. I just don't say anything about it at all. I just don't bring it up at all, because I didn't realize, I didn't put it together. So I'm fucking dumb. I'm paying penance for that now, because it ruined my life when the Monoxa video got to that. He does a good job, like, leading up to it, to where I kind of put it together with a little nudge. Once we got to that point where Anya and Curly are sitting at night talking, the line about why are there locks on the cockpit and medical rooms but not on the sleeping quarters, I don't know how I didn't put it together, because when we got there in the video, like, my stomach dropped. It was so insane to, like, actually realize what was happening there. Sorry, I'm a little allergic right now as well. I hope that's not too bad. I just want to get my thoughts out there, okay? Because, yeah, so much of the symbolism is about that as well, and a lot of the story hangs on Jimmy not wanting it to get out that he did that, and he's willing... It's crazy that it's like he's willing to kill everyone for that, just so he doesn't have to, you know, experience that. But then, in the time they stay alive, after he tries to crash the ship, he basically goes on, like, a super controlling, like, I'm the boss spree. Haha, I'm the boss now. I'm such a great boss. I'll fix everything. And then gets everyone killed, but worse anyway. So it's like this whole game is like the most miserable thing to sit through. And even when I wasn't digesting everything, just everything that happens is so unpleasant. And I think in the clips you can see, like, my whimsy just drains over time, and the clips get less frequent because I was just, like, fucking ruined. It was a lot. It was a lot to sit through, and so many of the abstract scenes are just Jimmy rationalizing stuff to him. And I really hate the one where Swansea, you, like, shoot him and he comes at you with the axe. It's such a shitty way to deflect. And, like, Swansea did kill Daisuke, okay? Like, in literal terms, he did. But, Jimmy, bro, you were willing to kill him to get something out of it. Swansea killed him out of, like, literally killed him out of, you know, not wanting to see him suffer anymore. Or I guess not wanting him to suffer anymore. Not wanting to see him suffer makes it sound more selfish. But I think it was, you know, wanting Daisuke to not go through as much pain as he would have if he kept going. Because there was nothing to do for him. He was just going to die there. And then, yeah, like, the Polly at the end being the baby. There's a lot of connection to Polly and the baby. So I did pick up on that. I just didn't understand the significance of it. In that, you know, the baby was born of assault. Which is fucking crazy. I cannot believe Jimmy is that shitty of a human being. And yeah, I think 'cause it's such an interesting genre of horror when it's just people doing shitty things for shitty motivations. I think this does a great job of that, where most of the horror is literally just people put in a bad situation by shitty companies doing shitty things. And by that, like, it's really Curly and Jimmy. The other passengers or employees, they don't really. I don't think they do anything really negative at all. Anya's pretty much perpetually silent, so they don't get much agency most of the time. Swansea's like a dick vocally, but he doesn't ever do anything physically, like, ruining, I guess. And Daisuke, yeah, he's a Chad. We love Daisuke here. I'm sad he got killed. But yeah, Curly's like an enabler, and then Jimmy's the doer. And Curly's not an enabler in like a unreasonable way. I understand a lot the whole, like, middleman mentality, I guess, the bigger picture. I feel like I find myself in that trap a lot, because it's a nice way to sort of digest everything that goes on around you. But yeah, if you never take action when something needs a definitive stance taken, if you're not able to take that stance, then stuff is going to happen that you don't necessarily want, and then you are partially culpable. So I don't think Curly's a bad person, but they do enable a bad person through inaction. And they enable that person twice to do the two major worst things that they do. And then Jimmy goes on and fucking parrots the, you know, our worst moments don't define us shit. After doing horrible things to everyone. And that being the thing Anya says to him in order to not, like, despise him. It's a lot. It's a lot. It was a great game. It was very good. What a emotionally devastating 2 hours that was. So yeah, it was great. I recommend it. It was lovely. Thank you for listening to my little rant. I'm glad I got to get it off my chest. If I have more to say, I'll do another one of these. That'll be fun. But for now, there you go.